was when I was in India. I did a volunteer project in India, and I traveled all over, worked at different NGOs, and learned about the issues there, and then also dedicated some time there. And the last project that we worked on was at Mother Teresa's orphanage. And they left that last on purpose because usually that's the most dynamic, that's the most powerful, and some people opt out of going there. And so we went, and some people actually decided not to go. And one of them was our teacher that was hosting the trip. He was a surgeon, and he said that, you know, in his day job, he isn't able to fix things and then basically act as a form of God. And in this situation, he's not able to. And so it was too much for him. He would not come. So knowing that, going into it, and you walk in and you are kind of overwhelmed by everything because there is so much going on with each individual kid that you cannot imagine, right? There's physically, mentally, emotionally. And they've been through so much in their few years on this earth than any of us have been walking through this door. And so learning from that, you quickly have this blanket of sadness. But ironically, it quickly goes away when you realize that these kids were just as like us when we were little. They're still very jovial. All they want to do is play, and they just care about enjoying themselves. So we quickly hung out, played with them, and the day kind of went by pretty fast. There was one moment during the day where I started hearing like a large banging noise against the wall. It was like someone was banging against the lockers, and I turn around and it's a kid in a corner who's banging his head against some lockers. And so I look at him and I stare, and I'm just like, stop, don't do that. And suddenly he stops, and he's completely fine. And then I turn back to work with other kids, and then he starts it again. So then I go back and I pick him up, and I tell him to stop, I talk to him, I ask him his name, and literally within 30 seconds of me picking him up and paying attention to him, he dramatically changed into a different boy. He was completely jovial, he was happy, he was socializing with everyone. He was not that boy that was banging himself against the wall in loneliness and sadness 2 minutes ago. It was just amazing, it was powerful. So that happened, and then shortly after there was this one child that was crying for 20 minutes straight. And I noticed that a sister was trying to calm him down. And I walked over to the sister and I'm like, why is he still crying so much? What happened? And she said, you know, no one is playing with him, that's why he's crying so much. And I realized that this child had no legs, he had only one arm, and it was essentially just a body and an arm. And so that limited his movement to join the rest of the group. And so I picked him up, and the sister told me, you know, he really loves dancing. And so I twirled him around, pretended to dance with him. And literally in 45 seconds, he was the happiest kid in the world. It was that small element of care and good that changed his entire perspective. And it made me think about the teacher that decided not to come that day. And I thought that, you know, he was too worried about fixing the things, but in reality, he could have fixed it by these small instances of showing care. And so that day was very powerful for me. And I thought about it on my flight home, how come this sort of power by doing small things isn't transcended back at home? Why is it that we don't see that as much? But then I thought about it a little more, and I realized that the same power is transcended here. It's just that we don't pay attention to it enough. We're caught up in our busyness and our chaos in our own lives that we forget to show these small acts, and so that we forget to actually look for these acts and appreciate when it does happen. And so that's how the Simple Good started, is creating this platform for enabling us to share these small acts and create something more powerful and more dynamic out of it. When I got home, I was telling my friends these stories, and we went through and looked at all our pictures of travels we've been all over the world, and we realized the same elements of good were being captured in all our photos no matter where we had been. It's either an awesome sunset or a smile or a really funny story, something like that. Same stories no matter where we were, whoever was taking the picture were being captured. And so we put the photos together, put them on a blog, and invited other people to submit their photography and continue this discussion to see if we were going the right direction. And it caught on like crazy. Everyone was submitting their photos, whether it was a little pulp juice of mango or a bicycle of their grandmother's, anything small. And we saw the same stories repeat itself no matter where it was in this world. And so that really is a huge example of how these small things can make a dynamic impact. And art was an awesome platform for us to do that. Because no matter what, art is a great platform for discussion and realization that transcends all boundaries. It transcends any language barriers, any ethnic barriers, any religious barriers. This connects to everyone. And when we practice that on an everyday level, these small instances of good, we're able to create so much more and have a huge impact on anywhere we go, on those people that surround us, and in turn, ourselves. So there's a quote that Desmond Tutu once said. He's used to be the president of Uganda, and he said, "Fulfill your world with small instances of good where you are right now, and that will overwhelm the world with something larger." So I encourage all of you guys to obviously submit a photo to the site, and as well as continue this discussion even after today. What does the simple good mean to you in your life? How does that transcend to the people around you? And how can you keep that and capture it in every single day in order for us to create something bigger that has a larger impact on all of us? So that's all I have. TheSimpleGood.com. Thank you.
Okay, that was the first question. Yeah, TheSimpleGood.com.
Yeah.
Check it out. Right. So